Hey, boys and girls, back again for another episode. Still in our fraction unit. This week we're going to talk about something called equivalent fractions. Savannah had complained last time it was a little hard to see, so I did. I took the lampshade off Savannah. Kind of blinds me a little bit when I look directly at it, but hopefully it helps you to see better as well. Okay, so a couple different things I want to talk about. So we have an example here of 2/5. I'll shade that in just in this first box. Right? It's just 2/5. And so say, you go into the store, there's kind of a 5-pack of candy. Mom buys it for you. You get these two pieces. Brother or sister, let's call it sibling, gets these two pieces. And then mom gets this last piece for herself. Okay, so between the 5 pieces, you got 2 out of the 5 pieces of candy, or 2/5. Okay, so just the first time you go, you get 2/5 of that candy. Now, it can also mean kind of out of every. It can also mean that, let's say, every time you go to the store, mom buys the same package of candy, and you always get 2/5. Where you get 2 out of every 5 pieces of candy that you get. And if you kind of kept that going, and that's kind of an example of equivalent fractions. Okay, so first you just got 2/5. Now the second time you've gone, again, you're going to get another 2 pieces. So now our whole is kind of that set. Right? How much candy have you guys gotten all together? Between the 2 trips now, you've now gotten 10 pieces of candy, and you got 4 of them. Okay? Now, what happens is those both numbers are going to change the same way. The number 2 doubled, or times by 2. 2 times 2 equals 4. The number 5 also doubled, again, or times by 2. And 2 times 5 equals 10. So you put a fraction, though. We multiplied by 2 halves. Okay? And now we have 4/10. Okay? Really, the 2 and the 5 have to change the same way. That's really the number one rule of equivalent fractions. Both the top and the bottom number have to change the same way. Okay? If I multiply 2 by 2, I also have to do 5 by 2. Again, now think about 3. For this example, it's now going to be 2 times 3 and 5 times 3. Now, this is now the third time you've gone. You can even kind of see it with the picture. How many pieces of candy have you now received? 2 times 3, that makes 6. 5 times 3, that makes 15. Okay, so every single time you go, right, you get 2 out of every 5 pieces of candy. Okay, that's still 2/5. And again, it's kind of out of every 5 pieces of candy, you get 2. See, now if I with my kids, I would probably say, I get these 3. Okay? Both of the kids get 1 each, and that's probably why I have this belly. But that's a whole different story. All right? So again, in our example, you're getting 2/5. Brother or sister, again, we'll call sibling, also gets 2/5. And then mom is much nicer than the dad in my story. She only takes 1. I took 3 and just gave the kids 1 each. But again, that's because of the belly. All right, so moving on. Now again, the fourth time you go, same thing. Super nice mom gives you 2 pieces. Okay, how many pieces have you guys gotten in your 4 trips total? Right, 5, 10, 15, 20. I can even just kind of count that out. How many pieces have you gotten yourself? 2, 4, 6, 8. Again, it's the fourth time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 times 4 and 5 times 4. Right? 2 times 4 makes that 8. 5 times 4 makes that 20. All right, and then how about the last time you go? or the fifth time you go, I guess I should say. Again, you're going to get those 2 pieces of candy. And again, there was 5 pieces total. Now we're timesing that by 5. 2 times 5 makes 10, and 5 times 5 makes 25. All of these, and I'll put an equal sign in between, because those are all equivalent fractions. They all, at the base of it, means 2/5. 2/5 we call kind of the simplest form. And you'll see that word sometimes on your work this week. It will say simplify this fraction. 2/5. You notice you have 2 numbers that really can't be changed anymore. They're both what we call prime numbers, 2 and 5. We can't reduce them by a certain number anymore. If we were starting the other way, if we were at 8/20ths, I can divide 8 by 4 to get to 2, kind of that opposite, go backwards. 20 divided by 4 makes 5. All right, so that's for that part. And then I'll show you in a second the other part of this involving, and I changed my mind. Before I move on, I want to show you something different to you. Some of you might have just been going and counting and kind of figuring out the patterns. It went 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 at the top, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 on the bottom. Okay, but it might all of a sudden skip ahead on you. It might all of a sudden give you something like, well, how much would 10 be? I'll pick a nice easy number to multiply with. Instead of having to draw out 5 more sets, I can just skip ahead. Okay? Again, that 10th group, I know that just means that 10 is going to be on the top and 10 is going to be on the bottom. Again, my number 1 rule, as long as I multiply both numbers by the same thing, then that's going to work out. Right? So 2 times 10 and 5 times 10. 2 and 5 are going to change the same exact way. 2 times 10 makes 20. 5 times 10 makes 50. So 20/50ths is another equivalent fraction. So we had 2/5, 4/10, 6/15, 8/20ths, 10/25ths, and now 20/50ths. Same thing happens, and I'll just pick a random number like 16. Which isn't a number you're normally going to use in these situations. I just wanted to show you that it kind of works with any number. As long as I do 2 times that number and then 5 times that same number. In this case, 16. 2 times 16 makes 32. And 5 times 16, 5 times 6 makes 30. 5 times 10, 50, which makes 80. It's another point that I wanted to get to. If I get to something like 32/80ths, that's not really a fraction that I can even really picture in my mind. I don't really have I can't even think of something that comes in a package of 80, and I would use 32 of them. And I know it's a little less than half, but that doesn't really tell me much. What I would do then, if again, especially in something like 5th grade, if I get an answer like 32/80ths, I would then go the other way. I would divide both of these pieces by 16, and I would get back to 2/5. That's that simplest form. It might say on your test, simplify your answer. So when you do the regular adding or subtracting or multiplying or whatever it is with fractions, you get an answer of 32/80ths. Right? Your teacher is going to want you to simplify it back to 2/5. And that's what I will get into next. So going the other direction takes a little more mental math. You have to really have kind of your math facts settled. Okay? So I showed you a picture over here of 6/9. Again, there are 6 of the boxes colored in out of the 9 boxes that make the 1 whole set. Okay? Or the 1 whole candy bar, the 1 whole mile, the 1 whole whatever it is in your problem. Okay? Now I kind of color coded these a certain way on purpose. Because kind of going up to what I talked about with 2/5. I called it 2 out of every 5. And I wanted to kind of show you that connection here. Okay, what do you notice about each individual row in my sort of square with 9 smaller squares in it? And I use my ruler to make those nice for you. Okay? Right? There's 2 blue out of this 3 on the top. There's 2 green out of this 3 in the middle. And then there's 2 red out of this 3 on the bottom. And that really is what our simple or our simplified fraction is going to turn to. And you can kind of see it right here. There's 2 out of 3. There's 2 out of 3. And there's 2 out of 3. Right? How many groups of 2 out of 3 do we have? This is going to be our important number here. We ended up pulling out 3 smaller groups. So now instead of multiplying, we're going to divide by 3/3. I took my 6 boxes and I divided the 6 boxes into 3 smaller groups. I took my 9 whole pieces and I divided them, or I broke them down into 3 smaller groups. Okay? And then 6 divided by 3. How much was in each group? Each of my rows ended up with now 2 smaller boxes shaded in. And each of my rows themselves ended up with 3 boxes. So that's kind of that harder way to go or to think of, but it also works. Again, it'll be really, really big in 5th grade. If you're doing like 4 9ths plus 2 9ths on the test, you get an answer of 6 9ths. Your teacher is going to want you to simplify it. Yeah, and sometimes you can find that gap between the numbers. 6 and 9 are 3 apart. That happened to be the number that worked. Sometimes the top number itself will work. Or sometimes, again, if both numbers are even, you can divide them by 2, and so on. Okay, so just a quick little video. So great job again today, guys. You guys have been doing a great job on your work on Google Classroom, so keep it up.